Here we go again. Video number 3 on the subject of southern flounder and the recreational fishing community who can't catch any in the year 2024. And the reason why is because they exceeded their limit in the year 2023, which was established in the year 2022. Oddly enough, we didn't hear any complaints until the year 2024. Here's the wonderful thing. The North Carolina, I'm reading my laptop right here, the North Carolina Wildlife Federation renews call, that's a big one, renews call, to end inshore shrimp trawling after 2024 flounder season canceled. It wasn't canceled, you exceeded your limit. We just said established in 22, you did it in 23, 24, you just have to pay the price for it. So what is the reaction? No more, you can't, this year you can't catch recreationally and keep southern flounder. The reaction, ban shrimp trawls on the inside waters. What does that mean? A whole lot. Seeing as how in recent years, 85% of all the shrimp caught in North Carolina were caught where? Inside waters. So me as a consumer, you're taking the shrimp off my plate. I don't like that very much. So let's just get into it. At first, I want to go back over some of the things I went over in video 1 and in video 2. We're going to Amendment 3 of the Southern Flounder Fishery Management Plan. Now listen to this. Page 19. Historically, North Carolina has accounted for approximately 99% of annual southern flounder commercial landings from the U.S. South Atlantic coast. We catch a bunch of flounders. You know why? We're going to show you why. Because we have an estuarine system that no one else has. You can go up and down the eastern seaboard. No one has the Pamlico Sound and those backwaters that we have. That's why it's so productive. But take a look at this. Look at this chart. This is showing the North Carolina annual southern flounder commercial landings. Okay, now you can see like in the early 1990s, we're catching a whole bunch. But look, ever since then, the catches have gone down, have gone down, have gone down, have gone down. Now those are the catches. And I realize that you're talking about bycatch. Now, number one, a shrimp trawl doesn't catch everything in its path. Sorry, it's impossible. Why? One of the reasons why a shrimp trawl, when he's trawling, is only going at about 3 knots. Most fish can outswim it. Also keep in mind the shrimp trawl is what? It's a net. It has holes. Little baby things can actually get out. Number 3, or whatever number I'm on, the excluder devices. Let's start with a turtle excluder device that's in all of our shrimp trawls, all of our otter trawls. And what that is when it's a metal grate. 4 inches apart are the bars. When a turtle goes into a shrimp trawl, if it goes into a shrimp trawl, it hits this grate, gets deflected out, a flap, he's gone bye-bye. And also guess what? Since it's 4 inches across, anything of a width 4 inches greater is going to do exactly what that turtle did. It's going to hit that grate, go up, and go out of the escape panel. There's also things in there called fish excluder devices. And if you look at the device itself, it looks like a triangle. And without getting too complicated, there's an accelerator inside of the shrimp trawl bag, which creates a high pressure, low pressure. The fish will go to the low pressure, which takes them to the excluder device. Whoop, they're gone. The other important thing to keep in mind is just because a fish goes into a shrimp trawl doesn't mean it's dead. Another thing to keep in mind, it's called, what you're calling bycatch is defined as incidental catch. An incidental catch, if a shrimper is out there and catches a legal size flounder, he can sell it. That's referred to as an incidental catch. That has to be taken into account. Now I'm just gonna again just jump into, oh, by the way, North Carolina Wildlife Federation, go to their website, look at it. This is in the blog section as I recall. So go to their website and read what they've said. If you would like to see an exact copy of it, this is where I'm about to fuss. Go to WCTI TV12's website on their news reporting about this topic. There's an article there that they have posted that is, oddly enough, is a copy and paste from the Wildlife Federation website. This is news. They didn't report any news. They just copied and pasted and boom, and didn't even give attribution to the North Carolina Wildlife Federation. Some Matthew Henson is taking credit for the entire thing. So I fuss at you, WCTI. That's sloppy. That's lazy. Lazy. We can get into that another time. Data used to describe the commercial fisheries for southern flounder comes from the National Marine Fisheries Service and a whole bunch of other folks as well. I want to get right into this. Take a look at this graph. It shows pounds of southern flounder harvested as bycatch from commercial crab and peeler pots, crab and shrimp trawls, channel nets. Look at the number from 2008 all the way down to 2017. Notice the trend there? Less, 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 less. Does anybody ever read these FMPs, fishery management plans? That's my big question. Do you ever read them? Because your questions are always answered right here. Let's see, North Carolina shrimp trawl fishery, southern flounder represented. Ooh, please, anybody. The Director of Marine Fisheries, the folks with the Wildlife Federation, the Coastal Conservation Association, the North Carolina Fisheries Association, any marine biologist, I got a question for you. Listen to this. The North Carolina shrimp trawl fishery, this is page 29 of Amendment 3 Fishery Management Plan. Southern flounder represented 1% to 33% of the regulatory discards in the estuarine, otter, and skimmer trawls. Am I the only one that this bothers? They range from 1% of North Carolina shrimp trawl fisheries southern flounder represented 1% to 33% of the regulatory discards. What is it? Is it 1%? Is it 33%? That's a huge margin. If somebody can explain this to me, get up with me. Get your pencils and papers ready, boys and girls. I'm going to give you my email address. I want to hear from you. It's Bill Hitchcock, not too difficult to forget, at mail.com. BillHitchcock@mail.com. Email me. Let me know. I've seen plenty of your posts. YouTube. Another tangent. Just bear with me. I'm going to address almost all the comments that have been posted on YouTube from the first flounder video and the second flounder video. One of the things that I'm going to address today is there's been several people have asked, who pays you? Follow the money. That tickles me. And I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you exactly where my money comes from in all of these videos that I have done. And I can't say will do because you never know who might come up with some money, what have you. But today I'm going to tell you who the evil, dirty is that pays me to make these videos. You're going to be very surprised. All right, let's keep moving forward. Again, page 29 of Amendment 3 to the Southern Flounder Fishery Management Plan. It says discard data from the North Carolina Shrimp Trawl Observer Program were used to help estimate bycatch rates of southern flounder in the U.S. South Atlantic shrimp trawl fishery. Listen. Results indicate a general decline in bycatch of southern flounder as well as fishing effort from 1989 to 2017. Discards from the shrimp trawl fishery were found to contribute minimally to the overall catch and were not found to bias the results of the 2019 stock assessment. Minimally. Page 29, please go to the division website. Please download this Amendment 3 to the Southern Flounder Fishery Management Plan. It's there in black and white. Again, page 29, towards top, go take a look at it. Now I know that some people are going to, well, a lot of people are going to dispute it because it's not what you want to hear, and that's the problem with a lot of situations we have with the fisheries here in North Carolina, and really everywhere. If it's not what you want to hear, you try to invalidate it. If it's not what you want to hear, you try to put that person or that entity down. Let's get political. If you're familiar with Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, just take a look at them. They got little bullet points. I think it's 15 of them in totality. It's been a couple of years since I read it. But you just smear your opposition. That's all you do. You don't have to battle in the realm of reality. And trust me, fisheries managers would really like to deal with you in the world of reality. If you do like what's been posted at my YouTube site, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, well, how do you can't respond to that. You just can't respond to that. If you have an honest question, that's great. But willful ignorance is not great. Willful ignorance is when a fact comes your way that you don't want to hear. You go, la, 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 la. I've been doing this for 40 years. I have seen it for 40 years. And now you're starting to learn the motivation of why I've been doing these things. Anyway, fisheries management plan. I'm just grabbing stuff here. Look at this, in North Carolina recreational hook and line fishery, flounder species have been the most often reported target species in the past 37 years. North Carolina represents the second largest proportion of recreationally harvested southern flounder in the U.S. South Atlantic. You're number 2, Rex. Go for number 1. So you don't think any fishing pressure is coming from you? Of course it is. By the way, I got a real sincere question for you. How many of you consider yourself a conservationist? How many of you want to conserve and protect? Oh, let's just pick on southern flounder. That's what you want to do. We got to protect the resource. We got to save it for your kids and our grandkids. Get hooked on fish and not drugs. Heard it a zillion times. Are you sincere? Okay. Do you know what's the easiest thing to do? Will cost you nothing, cost no one nothing? Don't fish. Don't come down the coast. Don't flounder fish. That's the greatest thing you can do if you really, really want to preserve and conserve the fishery. Kind of changes the situation. It's kind of like, I'm against abortion. Oh, wait a minute, my daughter got pregnant. Well, principles aren't flexible. There is no moral relativity here. Hopefully we're dealing in science. Let's deal in fact. And of course, it's always going to evolve. What we know today will change tomorrow. There is no such thing as a former president said, the science is settled. It's not science then. If it is settled, craziness. And there's a little chart that I probably have put up since I'm doing this in a pre-recorded fashion. Listen to this. In 2018, 82% of the harvest occurred in estuarine waters. That's shrimp. Again, in 2018, 82%. This is what the Wildlife Federation wants to end. Oh, push it offshore. Well, we're going to talk about that here in a little while. There's a lot of problems with pushing it offshore, and one of them is that year, in the year 2018, 18% of the shrimp were caught there. Now, on average, they've got since 94, it's 56% on average. This highlights a wonderful point. It's inconsistent in terms of year, in terms of time, in terms of location. There's variables. It's not one constant. All right, let's move forward from there. And by the way, this is pretty fun. I mean, literally seconds before went on air, listen to me. Sorry, broadcast TV, too long. I broke my glasses, so I duct taped them so they don't fit my head. Well, they don't fit my head anyway. Now, this is a wonderful letter written to your hero, Joe Albee, with the Coastal Fisheries Reform Group. It came from Dr. Lewis Daniel when he was the director of the Division of Marine Fisheries. It's dated October 2, 2012. It's he wanted to end inshore trawling. And Lou is writing, he says, unfortunately, the information that the CRFG, the Coastal Fisheries Reform Group, has distributed mischaracterizes these studies. And that's an extremely polite way, Lou, and I appreciate you being very diplomatic of saying, you're wrong, you're spreading lies. So let's move forward with it. Lou says, while the study shows 77% and 79% bycatch by weight, respectively, for the Pamlico Sound and nearshore ocean commercial shrimp trawl fishery, these studies do not gather any information on mortality. You can catch 100 fish and the 100 fish live. They don't know. 50 could live. 10 could live. There's no information on mortality. So your little premise of I remember what they used to call it, the gillnet, the wall of death. That conservation group used to love to publish that. By the way, sidebar again, just bear with me. Well, don't bear with me. Go away if you don't want to listen to this. That's fine. I'm just here talking about the facts, and I've got the documentation right in front of me. During my live TV days and syndicated TV days about the coast of North Carolina, there was 3 people I loved to interview, and I'll tell you who they are and why. One was Dr. Bill Hogarth. He was the director of the Division of Marine Fisheries. One of the reasons why I like Bill so much is I'd get him in the television studio live in front of 1 million people, 1 million households, open up 6 phone lines and say, all right, world, call. Ask Bill anything. And he would do it. Anytime he was available, it usually was about once a month, once every 6 weeks or so, Dr. Bill Hogarth come in the studio, and we just opened, and the calls were not screened. Here's a dirty little secret. I used to go to him live on air. Had no idea who was there, what the question was, what was going to happen. So there was no call screen. So Bill Hogarth is one person I really liked doing TV with. Another person I really liked doing TV with was Jerry Schill. He used to be the president or executive director of the North Carolina Fisheries Association, the trade group that represents commercial fishermen. And there's many reasons why. Upfront guy. I've never met anybody with more integrity. He's a great family man. He's a great Catholic, and he takes his job seriously, and he works harder than anybody else I've ever met. So I used to love that. He had no problem. He'd let me go into his office. He'd come in the studio. So that's number 2 of the people that I really enjoyed interviewing. The third, and I miss him. Oh, he's still alive, I hope. It was Dick Brame with the Coastal Conservation Association. Same type scenario. Dick, come on in, or I'll go to you, whatever. Tell me what's going on. I don't understand this. I think that you're wrong with this. Whatever it was, we had discussions. We didn't have insults. We didn't have tactics. We weren't going, we were grown-ups. And I miss it. Well, all 3 of those guys, they were grown-ups. There's other people. I used to like talking with Press Pate. He was long-winded. I used to like talking with Dr. Lewis Daniel. Long-winded as well. But these guys would talk. And I encourage you, by the way, whoever you is, talk. Go to the information. I've been trying to get you to download the FMP, the Amendment 3, and obviously a lot of you haven't from what you're saying. So just go to these people, ask, and you might be surprised what you will learn. Now let's continue on with this. Composition of bycatch. This is the letter to Joe Albee from Dr. Lewis Daniel, dated back in 2012. The composition of bycatch in the shrimp trawl fishery can vary greatly from year to year, season to season, hour to hour, area to area, toe to toe, as well as by gear type. It's not a constant. So you can't take a number and extrapolate out. You can't do that. It is this high variability that makes it difficult to use data from a limited study in time and space to extrapolate beyond that time and space. It is not reasonable to assume the bycatch rates in a neighboring area can give an accurate approximation of an unsampled area. The majority of finfish taken as bycatch in the shrimp trawl fishery are juvenile fish, which have a high natural mortality rate. It caught up, but it's got another parallel here. I love it in August, September, when the water temperatures down here are the highest and we get fish kills. And when the water temperature goes up, the dissolved oxygen goes down. Fish can get trapped literally in an area with no oxygen. Crabs will literally come out of the water to breathe. Flounders will come up off the bottom to the surface to breathe. But every time that happens, it's usually every year, every other year, every time it happens, news report, millions of fish are dead in the Neuse River. Well, they are. But you could take that million fish, which are juvenile, and put them on top of your desk. They'd all fit. So just because there's a high number of fish, and as Dr. Lewis Daniel just pointed out, this high mortality in juvenile fish? Why do you think there's so many of them to start with? So again, just because a shrimp trawl was involved doesn't mean it's going to be dead. And now listen to this paragraph. Again, this is a letter to Joe Albee and the Coastal Fisheries Reform Group, 2012. Also, the Coastal Fisheries Reform Group letter implies that other states which have banned inshore trawling have built thriving fisheries on species such as weakfish, spot, and croakers. The decline in stocks of these fisheries is in fact coast-wide, not just North Carolina. Along the mid-Atlantic coast, in the areas where weakfish production is highest, the abundance and landings of weakfish have decreased precipitously since the late 90s. Listen to this. This decline has been most apparent in states where inshore trawling is not allowed and where recreational landings have historically been the highest. He's talking Virginia to New York. Let's skip on down here. Scientists along the Atlantic coast have concluded that it is likely natural mortality, not fishing mortality, harvest or discards, that is the driving factor in the current weakfish decline. Fly nets, they ended that fly net fishery like what, in 94? Thought, ooh, here come the gray trout. 14 years later, at this time period, still same problem. So you remove the gear that you said was causing the problem, and 14 years later, it still had the problem. Sometimes we can act like spoiled children with a cookie that was just taken away, and you're going to argue with the adult about having the cookie, and you're pitching a fit because you can't have the cookie, and the adult's saying, well, you can't have a cookie because it's bad for you, and it's right before dinner, and it doesn't matter, you're just going to kick and scream. So let's stop acting like 4-year-old children with a cookie being taken away. Here's something else. In the same letter, Dr. Daniel says 45% of North Carolina's estuarine intercoastal waters are closed to shrimp trawling. Now I'm going to put up a map. And the map that you're looking at, and I'm not looking at it myself right now, but the map you're looking at shows the closed areas. All that black, red stuff, closed. They can't trawl there. And you notice there's creeks and rivers and those estuarine there. Can't, you got to out into the Pamlico Sound. So where you're saying they're doing the destruction, it doesn't exist because it's closed. Now, also, while Virginia and South Carolina border North Carolina, they differ greatly in the amounts of estuarine waters under their jurisdiction. And he goes on and lists, North Carolina has 2,220,161 acres of estuarine waters. Virginia has almost less than half of that, 996,600 acres, and South Carolina only 168,700 acres. It's an apples and oranges comparison. Actually, it's a basket of apples compared to one little orange. You can't compare the two states. And as we showed, I think I showed you earlier, if not, I'm going to show you now, that go up and down from Florida all the way up to New York. And look, no one has the waterways that we do. That's why they're so productive. And it's not just shrimp, and it's not just flounders. North Carolina is, here we just had the Big Rock Blue Marlin tournament. And yes, 90 some odd % of offshore fish are estuarine dependent. Have you ever caught and I have, mahi, caught a dolphin, open up the stomach, and what do you see? Shrimp. So it is dependent upon that. We have that one system that no one else has. It's very, very unique. So therefore, what applies to us might not apply to somebody else. Now, this is something I really wanted to get into. This is Mr. Tim Hergenrader. I hope I pronounced that name right. And I apologize if I mispronounced it. It's not intentional. But Mr. Tim Hergengator petition. It's an unofficial transcript of the North Carolina Division of Marine Fisheries review of petition for rulemaking to designate internal coastal waters as secondary nursery areas. There's a ton of stuff in here, but this is the one thing that I wanted to bring up. He's referred to as the petitioner. The petition for rule change. He says, we know that according to Director Daniel, around 4.5 pounds of finfish perish. We just talked about that. Even if it was 4.5 pounds, they don't all perish. For every pound of shrimp harvested. Using around 4.8 million pounds of shrimp harvested annually, we get 21,849,201 pounds, or 10,900 tons of bycatch, collateral damage. Well, Lou was at that meeting. Excuse me, Dr. Daniels. And I called Hogarth Bill, so Dr. Hogarth. Mr. Shields, Mr. Brame, whatever. He responded at this meeting. Here's the transcript. He says, let me start off by making as clear, I don't want to say it's an apology, but the issue of the 4.5 to 1, I was under extraordinary pressure to come up with a number. All right, and the estimate on averages was 4.5 to 1. That's clear, that's well established, but it's not a good estimate. The man that came up with the estimate just said I was under pressure to do it, and it's not a good estimate. This, by the way, is in 2013. 11 years later, how many of y'all still using that 4.5 to 1 ratio? When the man who did the results said, let's continue on with it. He says, I was concerned about giving that number, but I was really put under a petition where I had to give a number. I don't like the number any more than you do. It's not the appropriate way to characterize bycatch. But it's the only way we have at this particular instance. He goes on to say, so it's been misused. 11 years ago you were told this, people. Why are you still using it? I was very clear in my discussions with the requester of that information about my misgivings about the information and about my concerns related to the information. You were told the truth. You were told the facts. Did you listen? La 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 la. Well, anybody could take the pounds of shrimp and multiply it by 4.5. It does not take a PhD to do the multiplication. So anybody in this room could have done that same calculation that I did. All right? So I hope that clarifies that I regret having presented that number. And I applaud Luke, because this was, I guess, a Marine Fisheries Commission meeting. He's standing up there and he's saying, it's wrong, I was under pressure, screwed up, don't use it. So what do y'all do? Yep, because it suits your purpose and not reality. Let's deal with the reality, people. Now, you use it as you deem appropriate, recognizing that the Department of Marine Fisheries, or Division of Marine Fishery, does not support that mechanism to address, to calculate bycatch. Why are you using it? It's wrong. The man that came up with the number said it was wrong. The man that came up with the number said, I was under pressure. The man that came up with that number, he told the person, this is not a good thing to do. And he went on and told everybody that the Division of Marine Fishery doesn't use that number because it's wrong, it's bad. But you still use it 11 years later. And again, if somebody can clarify this, since science is always in a state of flux, if there's something new, let me know. Please. Again, you don't know what you're talking about. You must have voted for Biden. I got that several times at YouTube comments. They had nothing, the only insult they could, well, number one, if you have to resort to insults, you've lost the argument. You've lost the debate. You don't know what you're talking about, because if you knew what you were talking about, you wouldn't resort to insults. But what tickles me most about, I bet you voted for Biden. What tickles me most about that is, statistically speaking, half of the people that read that comment took it as a compliment. Oh boy. As Bugs Bunny would say, what a maroon. Now, the last thing I'm just going to talk about, I've gone way over time and I haven't really scratched the surface, is I love some of the insults, by the way. Well, they brought out the old man. Yeah. That's part of it. And then misquoting statistics. Well, I guess if I'm the old man, the person who said that, I'll just start calling Junior. I've been doing this for 40 years and I don't even think the guy's 40 years old. So anyway, let's move forward. And you wonder why people don't listen to you? You come out with insults. You don't come out with fact. You come out with your desire and your wants. But, you know, when you're talking to a scientist is going to go Okay, show me. Where was the research? Where's the science? What? Give me the data. Where is it? Well, I ain't got none. My friend over there in the meeting said that. What a maroon. Anyway, on Junior, tried to say that we can supplant the North Carolina caught shrimp with imports. 80 to 90% of the seafood consumed in America is imported. Less than 2%, sometimes less than 1%, is ever inspected. The FDA doesn't look at it. There's 140 countries that we receive imports from. Now listen to this. In the 1980s, domestic caught shrimp accounted for half of the U.S. consumption. Half. Today, more than 90% of all shrimp eaten in America is imported. Comes from India, Indonesia, Ecuador, other places. They raise generally shrimp in ponds. These are government-run operations, by the way. They raise them in what I call poo ponds. If you ever see, they feed them with defecation. They feed them with crap. They literally feed shrimp with crap. That's not just made up. Go on. There's this thing called, it's spelled Google, and there's another thing called Bing. These are search engines. In 2015, Consumer Reports warned that the Food and Drug Administration tests less than 1% of foreign shrimp shipments. Less than 1%. Every month, federal port inspectors reject shipments of frozen foreign shrimp because of the presence of antibiotics and contaminations of salmonella and, as they call it, filthy, putrid substances. That's the FDA talking about the foreign imported shrimp that you want to use to supplant the natural shrimp that are right here. Now, how are people going to get shrimp? Well, I just take me a cast net and throw her on out there. Well, guess what? We talked about this before. According to Visitancy, the state, North Carolina's Tourism Bureau, 93% of the people that come to the coast of North Carolina do not fish. So how are they going to get their fish? There's only one way. Either they got a lot of really good friends that are really good at catching and are giving it to them, or they're going to have to buy it. That's the job of the commercial fisherman. And I love this argument. It's a public use resource. And then commercial fishermen taking it all. It is public use resource. Oh, without a doubt. So how are 93% of the people who don't fish going to access that public resource? Via the commercial fishermen. So why do you hate them so much? Why are you always trying to ban? Particularly in the shrimp trawl. The shrimp trawl industry here in North Carolina is leading the way in the country with excluder devices. Things such as that have for decades. And I can tell you right now, there's somebody listening to me right now going, excluder devices? What? Yeah, it gets back to the old wall of death. By the way, with a gill net, common sense. You remember when I was talking about the turtle excluder device? It's a great, middle grade, 4-inch distance between the bars. Turtle hits it, or a big fish hits it, or a medium-sized fish hits it, and it goes on out. Same thing happens with a gill net. Boy, I'm just going for the trifecta, aren't I? They're different size meshes because the fisherman is targeting different fish. So say you have a 3-inch mesh. It's a hole. Can a 4-inch fish go through it? Nope. Can a 2-inch fish go through it? Yeah. It targets certain size fish that get caught in a gill net. And by the way, a pound net doesn't gill fish. That's another thing I've heard. You don't even know what a pound net is or how it operates. Theoretically, a fish can be caught and never touch a pound net. So this is all silly. Remember, let's see, per capita in America, if you just average it all out, we eat 5 pounds of shrimp a year. That's if you just average it out, every U.S. citizen, male, female, child, adult, grandma, grandpa, it does 5 pounds, and 90% of it is imported. One reason why is because we've got people that are senselessly trying to put our commercial fishing families out of business. Why? Because they perceive they're the problem when they're not, but they're upset because they can't catch the fish that they want to catch. By the way, if you don't know this, Coastal Conservation Association, down on the coast, they say the CCA stands for can't catch anything. Oh, let me give you another dirty secret before I get into the great dirty secret of, see, he even wrote a note so I wouldn't forget. Who pays me to write all this propaganda stuff? Again, just as a friendly reminder, how many F&Ps and studies and research do I have to go to you realize I'm not making this up? And I keep imploring you, please go, download, read. Okay, who pays me? Because you can't understand what's going on. Who pays me? You're waiting for it. He's going to say the Fisheries Association. It's them commercial fishermen. Who pays me? No one. Not making a dime. And of course, I'm pissing off a whole lot of people because I'm saying stuff you don't want to hear, no matter how factual it is. No one pays me. But I think it's a great idea. If you would like to pay me, get up with me either at YouTube or email me direct, billhitchcock@mail.com, billhitchcock@mail.com, billhitchcock@mail. I would love to talk money. Ha! To actually make a penny off of this, what a concept. So why am I doing it? Again, 40 years of doing this on television. The only premise of any of my shows or any of the websites I've ever done is it has to be saltwater related. It's the only premise. So if it's recreational fishing, great. If it's commercial fishing, great. Management, science, great. Conservation, great. Preservation, great. Atmospheric and oceanographic conditions, great. Love to hear from you. Again, if you got any information, real information, that either contradicts, supports, or shows a new light, please let me know. I just want to deal with fact. And if anybody, you know, somebody with the CCA or with the Wildlife Federation or the Fisheries Association or the Division of Marine Fisheries, or I can't think of another group right now, would like to talk, I'll interview you. We'll put you on air. It's that simple, folks. It's that simple. And by the last, oh, I told you, he's a commercial fisherman. The only thing that I am, the only organization I belong to, is the Coastal Conservation Association. I'm a lifetime member. And if I made you mad, you can send me my $1,000 back because that's all it takes to be a lifetime member. I don't know what the price is now. So anybody that belongs to the CCA, they never asked me if I fished. Anyway, I'm Bill Hitchcock. Looking forward to hearing from you. Bye.